I'm Teisha Bader with Shalom TV's news update for Friday, September the 13th, 2013. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry will travel to Israel this weekend to meet with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to discuss the ongoing peace talks with the Palestinians as well as the latest developments in the situation in Syria. Kerry is currently in Geneva holding talks with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov over Syria's chemical weapons program. He will fly to Tel Aviv on Sunday. State Department spokeswoman Jen Psaki said the purpose of the visit is to have an in-depth discussion with the Prime Minister on the final status negotiations between the Israelis and Palestinians. They will also focus on developments in Syria. Israel's security forces are on high alert as Israelis are set to mark Yom Kippur. Israel police have taken numerous measures to increase the usual safeguards, particularly at Jerusalem's Western Wall, where thousands of worshippers are expected to gather this evening. Police spokesman Mickey Rosenfeld said yesterday that the hundreds of officers to be stationed in and around the Kotel and the Old City had been instructed on all security needs and expectations days before. Rosenfeld said Israeli police have completed security measures ahead of Yom Kippur, which will be implemented from Thursday evening until the end of Yom Kippur, adding that tens of thousands of visitors in the area are expected and police will ensure that they can pray peacefully. Security crossings into Israel from the West Bank were temporarily closed today and will reopen following Yom Kippur in accordance with security assessments adopted by the IDF. And the Western Wall Heritage Foundation announced yesterday that approximately 500,000 people have participated in slichot, or penitential prayer services at the Western Wall since the beginning of the Hebrew month of Elul, leading up to Yom Kippur. Thousands more arrived last night for the final penitential prayer service before the start of Yom Kippur. Worshippers included Israel's new chief rabbis, David Lau and Yitzchak Yosef, who participated along with Western Wall Rabbi Shmuel Rabinowitz, who said this dramatic spectacle of the masses of the Jewish people thronging to the Western Wall is an impressive testimony and is an honor for the people of Israel and demonstrates its affinity to its traditions and inheritance and to the remnant of our temple. The Simon Wiesenthal Center is asking the United Nations to put pressure on the International Olympic Committee to force its newly elected president, Thomas Bach, to resign his position with an organization that advocates boycotting Israeli products. As we reported to you earlier this week, the American Jewish Committee also had urged for Bach's resignation from his role as chair to Gorfa, which is the Arab-German Chamber of Commerce and Industry. It's a body which supports boycotting Israeli-made products. In a letter to Special Advisor to the UN Secretary General on Sport for Development and Peace, Wilfried Lemke, Wiesenthal Director for International Relations Dr. Shimon Samuels wrote that both the UN and the Olympic movement aspire to contribute to a peaceful future for humankind, and that the UN, who flies its flag at the Olympic Games, bears a responsibility for the positions of the IOC and their consequences. Samuels wrote this would arguably include the conflict of interest of newly elected IOC President Thomas Bach, who is simultaneously chairman of Gorfa, who he said reputedly continues to issue certificates of negative origin, proclaiming that contractually supplied goods contain no elements of Israeli origin. He noted such discriminatory certificates camouflaging the boycott of Israel were banned as illegal by the German government over 20 years ago. The letter also noted Bach's support for the denial of the moment of silence at last year's Olympic Games in order to honor and remember the 11 Israeli athletes and coaches murdered in Munich at the 1972 Olympics. Samuels argued that Bach's maintaining both positions at the IOC and at Gorfa would result in boycott polluting sport in violation of the declared principles of both the UN and the IOC. He urged the UN to press Bach to devote himself to sport and not to boycott. Ynet reports that analysis of the Arrow 3 missile launch test, which took place last February by the Israeli Air Force in cooperation with American partners, have proved to be a great success and may speed up the timetable for the program to be declared operational. The Arrow 3 is the Israeli solution to intercepting long-range missiles that exit the atmosphere. Inbal Kreis, who until recently headed the Arrow 3 program, said that the goal is to reach a fully guaranteed interception. At an event held in Tel Aviv University, Kreis said that the system has proven saving in time and missiles, and the security establishment is examining answering all threat scenarios with this system. Further saying the missile's ability to divert course while reaching the targeted missile was proven beyond all doubt, as the accuracy of interception high above the state of Israel was improved. At the end of the event, Kreis told Ynet that they would try to move the schedule to have the Arrow operational ahead of schedule. The project's future stages, which are to take place in the next year and a half, are an additional launch to space as well as an experimental interception of a missile that simulates a long-range enemy missile that could reach the distance of about 1,242 miles. Israeli President Shimon Peres' office announced 7 recipients of the Presidential Medal of Distinction Awards yesterday. They include director Steven Spielberg and author and Nobel Peace Prize recipient Elie Wiesel. The statement from Peres' office read that Spielberg is being awarded the medal for his contribution to cinema over the past 50 years, and specifically his unique contribution to the memory of the Holocaust, to the State of Israel, to the Jewish people, and Tikkun Olam. Wiesel, the statement noted, is one of the world's top Jewish writers and intellectuals, a Holocaust survivor who for decades has worked to keep alive the memory of the Holocaust across the world, and is the leading figure in the United States of America on the subject. Other recipients of this year's award include Brigadier General in Reserve Avigdor Kahalani, who is a veteran of the Yom Kippur War, for his leadership and lifelong contribution to Israel's security, Rabbi Elimelech Führer, who created a unique medical network, Dr. Tzvi Tabor, who created the National Physical Laboratory of Israel, Avi Naor, who is founder of Or Yarok, which is the Association for Safer Driving in Israel, and a member of Israel's security forces who must remain anonymous. The awards were instituted by Shimon Peres in 2012 to recognize those who have made an outstanding contribution to the State of Israel or to humanity through their talents, services, or in any other form. The Reform Youth Movement here in the U.S. has embarked on a series of new initiatives aimed at attracting teenagers who may not typically attend their traditional programs. The North American Federation of Temple Youth, or NFTY's Teen Institutes, allows teens to develop their own personal Judaism by selecting weekend programs featuring areas of interest that appeal to them. Some of the programs offered include song leading, Israeli dance, Jewish learning, choral singing, and social media. Each weekend gives the teens the opportunity to hone those skills, which they can then utilize in their own communities. Associate Director of NFTY Beth Roden said, "Never before have we offered intensive weekends of learning to a North American teen audience with programs that combine Jewish living and modern-day content." And finally today, a reminder that with the beginning of Yom Kippur this evening, Shalom TV will be broadcasting live services from New York City's Central Synagogue. Kol Nidre services begin at 6 tonight, which follow a Kol Nidre Drash at 5:30. And live Yom Kippur family services begin tomorrow morning at 9 and at 10:45 here on Shalom TV and shalomtv.com. More information on all of our special Yom Kippur programs can be found on our website, shalomtv.com. And that's Shalom TV's news update for Friday, September the 13th, 2013. I'm Teisha Bader. Shabbat Shalom and Gemar Chatima Tova.